The first batch of 100,000 of Russian Sputnik 5 COVID-19 vaccines arrived in Venezuela.
And solidarity to our people, a country
Mexico to ease COVID-19 restrictions in half of the country. And Catalans vote in regional elections set to determine the strength of the region's pro-independence movement. Hello and welcome to teleSUR. I'm José Daniel Lopez in Quito, Ecuador, and this is from the south. The first batch of 100,000 Russian Sputnik 5 COVID-19 vaccines has arrived in Venezuela. The government of President Nicolás Maduro has an agreement of 10 million doses with Russia.
We are proud, Ambassador, of the Russia-Venezuela cooperation in which Russia has extended the hand of friendship and solidarity to our people, a country under attack by imperial powers.
Mexico is easing COVID-19 restrictions in about half of the country, including the capital, amid a drop in infections and hospitalizations in many places. Mexico City announced that starting next week, gyms, indoor swimming pools, and churches will be allowed to open, and restaurants will be able to operate outdoors until 10 p.m. Shopping malls in the capital partially reopened during the past week. The government is trying to speed up the vaccination program with the authorization of 2 new vaccines this week. In total, fewer than 86,000 people have been fully vaccinated in a country with 126 million inhabitants. A plane carrying 87,000 AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine doses has landed at the Mexico City airport, the first batch produced in India to arrive in the country.
What we are witnessing today is the arrival of the first AstraZeneca vaccines developed with Oxford that were produced in India for Mexico. The shipment is very important because it will let us accelerate our vaccination drive as was ordered by the President.
Former Argentine President Carlos Menen has died at the age of 90, serving 2 terms as president between 1989 and 1999. Menen fostered a striking economic recovery and renewed ties to the United States and Britain. However, he was later convicted of graft and accused of covering up evidence in a deadly anti-Semitic bombing on his watch. After arranging a constitutional change to allow himself another term, Menen won re-election. His second term was marked by a series of setbacks with rising interest rates, trade deficits, crime and poverty, and with failing productivity, consumer confidence, imports and foreign investments, national debts skyrocketed to $139 billion. A 16-year-old girl was fatally shot in the head in Trinidad and Tobago last Tuesday. Tamika Griffith was a student of the Princess Town West Secondary School. According to reports, the teen died after a loaded firearm discharge while a male relative was showing her the gun. The boy, also aged 16, is in custody. Meanwhile, police are searching for a man who allegedly offered to pay him $22 a week to hide the weapon. In Guatemala, dozens of bikers have protested in Guatemala City to demand justice for the murder of girls following the recent killing of an 8-year-old. The demonstrators, mostly women and girls, have called on authorities to strengthen security policies to end gender violence. The body of 8-year-old Sharon Figueroa was found in a town near the border with Belize on Wednesday, a day after her disappearance. An autopsy revealed that she was strangled to death and had bruises on her face and hands. Not even 2 months in 2021, Guatemala has already recorded the killing of more than 60 women and girls.
From their voices and their hearts, they are expressing all their feelings about the victims and the girls who have suffered physical and sexual violence in the country, which is what is affecting us right now.
Riding bikes, some girls are coming with their stuffed animals to represent these 2 girls who were murdered and all those who have died. Because it turns out that they died when they were playing. One was playing hide and seek, another one was riding her bike, and another one was playing with her stuffed animal. So that's how we represent and remember the girls.
Guinea declared a new Ebola outbreak on Sunday as tests came back positive for the virus. After at least 3 people died and 4 fell ill in the southeast, the first resurgence of the disease since the world's worst outbreak in 2013-2016. According to the Ministry of Health, the 7 fell ill with diarrhea, vomiting, and bleeding after attending the burial. It has not been established if the person buried on the 1st of February had died of Ebola. The 2013-2016 outbreak of Ebola in West Africa killed at least 11,000 people, with the vast majority of cases in Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. Fighting an Ebola epidemic again will place additional strain on health services in Guinea as they battle to the coronavirus.
Very early this morning, the Surfik-Conakry laboratory confirmed the presence of the Ebola virus. So this situation puts Guinea in a situation of an Ebola epidemic. There were a total of 7 cases, including 3 deaths. Of the 7, 4 were men and 3 were women. 3 were isolated, 1 in Conakry and 2 in Nserekore.
South Africa prepares to reopen its land border after an intense battle with the second wave of the coronavirus. Long queues of migrants from all over the continent were turned back as the country sought to put the high infections and death rates under control. The country's Pumgala province is expecting the return of thousands, but there are those already in the country struggling to live. Our correspondent Matuba Mataji brings us the details.
The age of 60 makes many poor South Africans eligible for a government social grant of just over $100 a month. Born to migrant parents 60 years ago, Josephine Nkosi is undocumented and can't access those funds. She says she's 65 but has no access to social grants. She was born here but moved to Eswatini as a child. But on her return, she was never able to get South Africa to give her an identity document because she got all her immunization as a child in the neighboring kingdom. But she says access to the nearby public health facility isn't a problem. Her children, however, are all South African citizens, but she battles to make ends meet. She survives with the help of community leaders like Nhlonipho Dlamini.
We also go and seek donations for food parcels, and then we distribute them the food parcels. Should there be other issues, maybe at work or something, we intervene. Like others, they send staff to schools for living. So we also assist. Sometimes the school principal doesn't want them, then we go and intervene for them to be allowed to get a living.
Another community leader, Nomsa Matobela, says the situation in neighboring kingdom of Eswatini is desperate.
Some of the people from Swaziland, they can't afford to pay school fees there because there's no free education. So in South Africa, because there's free education, some of the people, they bring their children this side because they know that everything is free. They get books free. Like I said, education is free. So that's why they like their children to come to South Africa.
The Mananga border post is one of the gateways into Eswatini Kingdom, but the subjects of King Swati III are flocking into South Africa by their numbers because this is where they get their economic freedom and opportunities to make a living. From the Mananga border post in South Africa, I'm Matiba Masachi.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again in a minute. Welcome back. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has been acquitted in his second impeachment trial. The Senate rejected the charge that he incited the January 6th attack on Capitol Hill with 57 votes in favor and 43 against. 7 Republicans voted with all 50 Democrats to convict him. This is the most bipartisan support for conviction in any of the 4 impeachments in U.S. history. However, the final tally fell short of the 2/3 majority needed to convict and disqualify Trump from holding future office.
So there can be no doubt that at the moment we most needed a president to preserve, protect, and defend us, President Trump instead willfully betrayed us. He violated his oath. He left all of us and officers like Eugene Goodman to our own devices against an attack he had incited and he alone could stop. That is why he must be convicted.
For those who say we need to get past this, we need to come together, we need to unify. If we don't set this right and call it what it was, the highest of constitutional crimes by the President of the United States, the past will not be past. The past will become our future.
And speaking shortly after the acquittal, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi accused some Republican senators of being cowards who put their personal interests above those of the country.
But what we saw in that Senate today was a cowardly group of Republicans who apparently have no options because they were afraid to defend their job, respect the institution in which they served. What is so important about any one of us? What is so important about the political survival of any one of us that is more important than our Constitution that we take an oath to protect and defend?
Dozens of people have been killed in overnight clashes between Yemen government soldiers and Houthi fighters in the Marib region. Two government military officials say that at least 16 pro-government forces were killed and 21 wounded in the past 24 hours, adding that dozens were killed among Houthi ranks. Earlier this month, the Houthis launched a new offensive to capture the region from the government. Yemen has been embroiled in a bloody power struggle since 2014 between its government, supported by Saudi Arabia, and Houthi rebels who control the capital Sana'a and most of the north. Lebanon has launched its vaccination campaign a day after receiving the first batch of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Under the plan, medical staff and those over the age of 75 are to receive the jab first. In total, the country hopes to receive around 6 million vaccine doses, including 2 million from Pfizer-BioNTech and another 2.7 million via the International COVAX distribution program. Lebanon has registered about 337,000 COVID-19 cases, with 3,961 deaths since its first confirmed case last February. In a press conference, Prime Minister Hassan Diab officially announced the launch of the vaccination campaign after the country gave its first COVID-19 vaccine dose to a health specialist and an elderly actor.
We are launching the national vaccination campaign against COVID-19 with high-quality, effective and trustworthy vaccines. Afterwards, we will begin to gradually free ourselves from the restrictions that this pandemic forced on us, and therefore life will come back to the various sectors after we reach the desired social immunity.
Saudi Arabia has extended its COVID-19 restrictions for 20 days in an effort to curb the spread of the coronavirus in the kingdom. The Ministry of Internal Affairs decided to extend part of the pandemic prevention and control measures, which started on February 5th, until the first week of March. Those restrictions include the attendance at social gatherings should not exceed 20 people. All recreational activities and public sports centers will be suspended and closed. According to the latest statistics released by the Ministry of Health, Saudi Arabia reported 353 new coronavirus cases on Saturday, bringing the average daily number of new confirmed cases in the past week to 357, setting the highest record since November 2020. Firefighters in Afghanistan have struggled for a second day Sunday to contain a massive fire that began when a fuel tanker exploded at a major crossing on the border with Iran. At least 60 people were injured in the incident in Herat province. Many of the more than 500 trucks lined up at the Islam Kala crossing carrying natural gas and fuel were still ablaze. The tankers import fuel and natural gas from Iran as the United States granted Afghanistan an exception to the sanctions imposed on Tehran. Farhad Jilani, spokesperson for Herat provincial governor, said that they are making efforts to control the fire and evacuate people.
Our efforts to control the fire and evacuate all the business goods from the Islam Kuala customs to a safe place in Herat city is going on. And as a result of this fire incident, hundreds of trucks and tankers have been burned. 17 people have been seriously injured with burns, and right now they are undergoing treatment in hospital.
Rescuers in India have found 11 more bodies as they continue to search for survivors after the collapse of a Himalayan glacier triggered massive flooding in the Uttarakhand state. The total death toll from the tragedy has now climbed to 49. The National Disaster Response Force said 150 people were still missing. After a part of a glacier near Nanda Devi mountain broke off on February 7, unleashing a devastating flood. The 11 bodies were found in a tunnel of a power project. Rescuers continue to clear sludge from the tunnel in an attempt to reach dozens of trapped workers, but hopes for their survival fade. We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. Catalans have voted in regional elections set to determine the strength of the region's pro-independence movement. Catalonia's separatist parties are hoping to have won more than 50% of the vote in Sunday's election. However, opinion polls predicted a tight race against parties not in favor of secession. They include the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party and the National Governing Party, which is expected to snag at least 20% of the vote. The center-left party opposes Catalonia's cession from Spain, but supports dialogue between Barcelona and Madrid. The minority government called for a new election after regional president Quim Torra was suspended from office by the Spanish judiciary in September.
Everything is going well. It was a little chaotic at the start, because there was a long queue and we were still organizing things. The thermometer wasn't working. There was a bit of a stir, so we started voting a little late. But once it started, things are much better.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says more than 50 million people in Britain have received the first coronavirus shot.
Today, we have reached a significant milestone in the United Kingdom's national vaccination programme. On the 8th of December, just after 6:30 in the morning, this country's first coronavirus jab was delivered safely into the arms of Margaret Keenan at University Hospital in Coventry. In the following 2 months, this country has achieved an extraordinary feat, administering a total of 15 million jabs into the arms of some of the most vulnerable people in the country. It has been a truly national, UK-wide effort. We've done it together. And I want to thank each and every person who has helped make it happen. You can be incredibly proud of the part you've played. And thanks also to everyone who has had a jab so far, giving protection not just to yourself, but also to your fellow citizens and to the NHS. And in England, I can tell you we have now offered jabs to everyone in the first 4 priority groups, the people most likely to be severely ill from coronavirus, hitting the first target that we set ourselves.
Kosovars have headed to the polls in the country's general elections. The ballot comes as the coronavirus pandemic has deepened the social and economic crisis in the former Serbian province, which declared independence 13 years ago. The party of Benten Sovic, meaning self-determination, an anti-establishment protest movement turned progressive political party, seems to be in the lead. Kosovo has mostly been run by the former commanders who led the 1990s rebellion of ethnic Albanian guerrillas against Serb force. But their camp is now missing its top leaders after a court in The Hague detained ex-president Hashim Thaçi and others in November on charge of war crimes dating back to the conflict.
Today is full light and bright, as our future will be. Citizens need democracy, while institutions need legitimacy. Today's opportunity to achieve this has to be used and implemented.
I expect that we will have a normal electoral process in line with the standards of organizing elections according to European standards.
A powerful earthquake shook eastern Japan on Saturday, injuring more than 140 people and leaving nearly a million households without power. 3 people were confirmed with serious injuries, but there were no reports of deaths. The 7.3 magnitude quake's epicenter was off the coast of Fukushima, close to 3 nuclear reactors that melted down after the quake and tsunami almost exactly 10 years ago. The company that is still cleaning up the nuclear complex said it had detected no major abnormalities. And speaking at a conference in Tokyo on Sunday, Chief Cabinet Secretary Katsunobu Kato said the warehouse storing coronavirus vaccines had not been affected by the earthquake.
We have contacted Pfizer and had a confirmation that the location where they have kept the vaccines has not been affected by the power outage. It is crucial to control the infections at evacuation centers, and we have been informing the local authorities based on the latest COVID-19 situation. Secondly, we are requesting to be thorough with the prevention measures.
Staying in Japan, a group of women have danced in a Tokyo square during an event inspired by the global 1 Million Rising campaign, a mass action to end violence against women. The performance took place days after former Olympics chief Yoshiro Mori stepped down following his sexist remarks that women talk too much during meetings.
In Japan, it's still difficult for women to speak up, evident from what former Tokyo 2020 President Yoshiro Mori said. When you try to assert yourself, you have to risk being treated negatively afterwards.
There are quite a few people who don't think positively about protesting against something or participating in a demonstration, which I feel strongly through my #Cool2 or anti-high heels campaign too. They say it's too much, too extreme, and they even say so about the #Cool2 campaign.
New Zealand's largest city of Auckland will go into a 3-day lockdown beginning just before midnight Sunday, following the discovery of 3 new coronavirus cases in the community. The lockdown is the country's first in 6 months and presents a significant setback in the nation's successful efforts to control the virus.
These new cases pose questions our public health staff are working around the clock to answer. We don't yet have a complete picture of the potential source of the infection and spread, if any, beyond one household, and we are waiting for the genome sequencing and serology, both of which will provide important pieces of this puzzle. As of 11:59 p.m. tonight, Sunday, February 14, Auckland will move to level 3 for a period of 3 days until midnight on Wednesday. The rest of New Zealand will move to level 2 for the same period of time.
The United Arab Emirates space probe called Hope has sent back its first image of Mars days after it successfully entered the red planet's orbit. The picture captured the largest volcano in the solar system, Olympus Mons, emerging into the early morning sunlight. The image was taken from an altitude of 24,700 kilometers above the Martian surface on Wednesday. Hope became the first of 3 spacecraft to arrive at the red planet this month, after China and the US also launched missions in July. And we come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories in our website at telesurenglish.net. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.